Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's IAS classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to see current affairs of 14th July 2021. In this lecture, we are going to discuss 8 topics to are very much relevant to UPSC. So let's get started with our discussion and let us see first topic. So in yesterday's comment session, many students they asked to explain about phases of clinical trials. So we are going to discuss with that topic. So if you have any doubts regarding this today's session, you can keep your comments in comment session. So if there is anything that need to discuss, then I will be discussing in next day's lecture. Okay. So now let us see clinical trials. So what are these clinical trials? So whenever any new medicine or drug or vaccine that needs to come into market, so the pharmaceutical companies, especially scientists, they will go for this clinical trials. So why we need to go for clinical trials? So whenever any new important compound that is coming into picture means we need to know whether that is efficient or not, whether it is safety or not, and we need to decide dosage, ideal dosage, because so and so dosage it is very much good for use, but whenever we are taking less dose it will be not effective, and whenever if you are taking more dose that will lead to some other complications. So because of this, we need to also decide right dosage that to be taken in different age groups. For example, in children, we are giving less dose. For example, in patients who are feeling with severe disease, we are give higher dose. And for adult people, we are giving so and so dose. So fixation of dosage is also very important. So here, these clinical trials, they can be divided into 4 types. First one is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 and phase 4. So if you are coming from medical background, you can also know about phase 0 clinical trials also. So here we are going to focus on phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 and phase 4 clinical trials. So phase 1 clinical trial is initial phase, right? So in this we are going to take a people, that is volunteers from 20 to 80 members, that is we are taking less group of population here. We are going to testing on this people. So mainly we are going to test about properties of a vaccine, especially in this COVID-19 vaccine here, and as well as its tolerability in people. So primarily this phase 1 is concerned with safety, and as well as we are going to decide ideal dosage of drug. So this is about phase 1. And next one is phase 2 clinical trials. So it involves a larger number of subjects than compared to that of phase 1 clinical trials. And this phase 2 clinical trials which mainly provide preliminary information, and mainly provides information regarding whether it is providing desired effects in target population or not. For example, if you are talking about common example, you know about this paracetamol, right? So paracetamol mainly used to decrease body temperature. So we are going to test about this paracetamol whether it is decreasing temperature or not. For example, to conduct this, so initially in phase 0 trials we are going to test on animals. So for example, we are taking guinea pig or rat and we are inducing temperature, increase in temperature in those bodies. So after that we are giving this paracetamol and we are testing whether this paracetamol is acting on that body. So whether it is decreasing or lowering temperature of those animals or not. Okay. So in this way we are going to see whether so and so drug or vaccine which is providing or which is producing desired effect or not. So this is mainly seen in this phase 2 clinical trials. And phase 3 which is mainly required to fully access protective efficacy and safety of vaccine here. So we are going to see efficacy and as well as safety of vaccine, and here number of volunteers will be more than 3000 people. Okay, and here it is a one important study. So based on results of this phase 3 clinical trials, so license will be granted based on this phase 3 clinical trial study. Okay, and now let us move on to next one, that is post-marketing surveillance. So after this phase 3 trials, so drug will get approval from this DCGI, Drug Controller General of India. So after this drug will be available in market, right? So after marketing, then what happened, whether it is causing any adverse reaction or any side effects. So we are going to have this post-marketing surveillance. So it is called as a phase 4 of clinical trials. So this phase 4 mainly done after approval of drug, and it involves thousands of participants in this phase 4 clinical trials. And in this phase 4 clinical trials, we will get more information about medications regarding long-term safety, effectiveness, whether it is having other benefits or not, and as well as whatever the side effects or adverse effects. So this is about in brief regarding this clinical trials. I hope it is clear, right? And now let us move on to next topic. Title says Uttarakhand suspends Kanwar Yatra. So here you need to focus on this Kanwar Yatra. So this topic will be important regarding GS paper 2 under art and culture. And here you can expect prelims based questions from this part. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. And one thing I want to make you sure that every day in community of this Rathod's IAS channel, we are mainly providing daily one quiz question. So yesterday's question is based on Ramappa temple because it is very important and you can expect question from that Ramappa temple. So because of this, I framed a question regarding this Ramappa temple. So if you have not tried those questions, so please try that question, and answer to that question will be given in today's. So answer for that question is B2 only. So every day we are going to give one question. So please try to attend those questions. Okay. And now let's come back and let us see context of this article. Context mainly says that Uttarakhand has decided to suspend this year's Kanwar Yatra in view of the COVID-19 situation. So because of this COVID-19 situation, here Uttarakhand government has decided to suspend this year Kanwar Yatra. So here Uttarakhand government mainly giving much priority to protection of human life. So this is context. And now let us see some more important details. So if you see details, it mainly says that occurrence of Delta plus variant of this COVID-19 is one of cause of concern, because this Delta plus variant, it is a variant of concern. So because of this, there is increased transmissibility and also it will be easily transmitted, right? And also increase the rate of infectivity. So because of all these things, so if you are going for social gatherings, so there might be increase in transmission of this COVID-19 virus, right? So because of this, they are mainly giving priority to protection of human life. So this is one important cause of concern. And next one is there is also possibility of a third wave and its effect on country and abroad will be detrimental. So because of this, mainly to prevent those type of waves, here Uttarakhand government suspended this Kanwar Yatra this year. So now it is time to focus on some facts regarding this Kanwar Yatra. So if you're talking about this Yatra, it is auspicious pilgrimage observed by Lord Shiva's devotee every year. So this Kanwar Yatra mainly regarding this Lord Shiva. So in this event, people they undertake Yatra to Hindu pilgrimage centers mainly to collect Ganga water, and then that Ganga water will be offered as Ganga Jal in local Lord Shiva temples. Hence these Shiva devotees, they are popularly referred as Kanwars or Kanvaryas. Okay, so these are two important terms you have to remember. So this Kanwar Yatra regarding this Lord Shiva. So this is one important fact, and this is mainly suspended in Uttarakhand. It is also important prelims fact. And one more important thing here you need to remember is, so this Yatra mainly celebrated in Shravan month. Okay, so this is month July to August of Hindu calendar. So this is just of this topic. And now let us move on to next topic. Title says Sri Ram Sagar gets 14 TM CFT water in 2 days. So this article mainly talking about one important project. So how this topic will be important? So you can expect a question like Sri Ram Sagar project recently is seen in news. So on which river this project was built? And also you can see in which state it is located. So in these two ways you can expect question from this Sri Ram Sagar project. So when I dealt with Indian geography, I dealt in detail about this Sri Ram Sagar project also. Okay. So overall this topic will be important regarding GS paper 1 under geography point of view. So now let us try to talk about this topic. So before this, I want to give you one more dimension here. So you need to also refer about this Kaleshwaram lift irrigation project. Okay. Kaleshwaram lift irrigation project in state of Telangana. So it is also linked to somewhat this Sri Ram Sagar project. Okay, so this is your homework. So there are many important things. If you do research regarding this Kaleshwaram project, that you will know. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. So if you see context, it mainly says that heavy flood into Sri Ram Sagar project. So this Sri Ram Sagar project, it is a gateway project across Godavari in Telangana state. So here two facts that came into picture, like, so this Sri Ram Sagar project is a great gateway project across river Godavari. So you have to remember this fact, river Godavari, and it is located in which state? That is in state of Telangana. And now let us move on to some facts regarding the Sri Ram Sagar project. So this Sri Ram Sagar project, also known as Pochampadu project. So it is one of Indian flood flow project on river Godavari. So it is a flood flow project on river Godavari, and this project located in Nizamabad district in Telangana state. So it is also called as a lifeline for large part of Telangana. Why? Because this is a multi-purpose project. It is an irrigation project, and it also provides drinking water, and it is also a hydroelectricity project. So because of this, it is called as lifeline for large part of Telangana, because it is an irrigation project which mainly provides irrigation services across river Godavari in Telangana, and it serves irrigation needs in many areas, like many districts like Karimnagar, Warangal, Adilabad, Nalgonda and Khammam districts. In Warangal district, it also provides drinking water services. And next one is, it is also hydroelectric project working at the dam site. So these are some important facts that you need to focus on this article. So now let us move on to next topic. Title says Assam bills ban sale of beef around temples. So this article mainly talking about Assam Cattle Preservation Bill. Preservation Bill 2021. So this article, which is very important from polity point of view. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. So what you need to focus? You need to mainly focus on what are the key provisions of this bill. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. So already background of this article we studied, I think 3 days before. 3 days before we studied that like Christian dominated state, for example Meghalaya, and we are also having Mizoram and Nagaland. So in these Christian dominated states like Meghalaya, Mizoram and Nagaland, they will go for beef consumption. But recently Assam came up with this Cattle Preservation Bill 2021. So this bill mainly says that there is a ban of transportation of this cattle with other states. Okay, so because of this, it is one cause of concern for this beef consumption states. So because of this, Mizoram and Nagaland, they did not react, but Meghalaya said that it will mainly issue it will go for some issues. Okay, it will go for a central government, and it want to restrict this bill. Okay, so this is the thing we already discussed in our earlier news analysis. And now let us try to talk about context. So if you see context, it mainly says that on July 12th, 126 member assembly. So in this assembly, Chief Minister of Assam, he said that primary objective was to check smuggling of cows to Bangladesh. Primary objective of this Assam Cattle Preservation Bill 2021, it is mainly to check smuggling of cows to Bangladesh. And next important details here is, it also seeks to restrict the sale of beef in areas which are dominated by non-beef consuming communities and within 5 km of radius of temples and as well as satras. So one important thing here you need to remember here is, so this bill mainly seeks to restrict the sale of beef in areas which are mainly dominated by non-beef consuming communities, and as well as they should not be sold within 5 km radius of temples and as well as satras. So these temples and satras, they were mainly formed by Saint Reformer, that is Srimanta Shankar Deva. And this bill also seeks to replace earlier act, that is Assam Cattle Preservation Act of 1950. So this act mainly allows slaughter of cattle. So slaughter of cattle will be allowed for more than 14 years of age of this cattle, because they become permanently incapacitated to do work or breeding, and accident or deformity which cause any damage to those cattle, then they can be slaughtered. But that slaughter can be happen only after local veterinary officer certifies that they are fit for slaughtering. And as well as this certified cattle, they can be slaughtered only in licensed and recognized slaughterhouses. So this is one important provision that you need to remember. And next one is state government may exempt certain places of worship and as well as certain occasions from slaughter of cattle other than cow, heifer, and as well as calf for religious purposes. So for religious purposes, we can also go for slaughtering of goats, etc. Right? So that is exempted here. Only slaughtering of cows, heifer, and as well as calf, they are prohibited in religious occasions or religious purposes. And next one is, this bill also says that no one shall be allowed to sell beef in any form except at places which are permitted by government. And next one is, beef will not be allowed to be sold in areas predominantly inhabited by Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, and as well as non-beef eating communities, and also within radius of 5 kilometers of any temple. And this bill also seeks to regulate the sale of cattle in the recognized animal markets. And this bill also bans transportation of cattle to and from Assam as well as within the state unless competent authorities they issue permit for movement of these animals. And next one is, according to this bill, there is no permission would be required to carry cattle in grazing fields or for agriculture or animal husbandry purposes. So there is no need of permission for that purpose. And next one is, if there is any violation, then it will attract imprisonment up to 8 years, that is from 3 to 8 years, and also fine of 3 lakh rupees to 5 lakh rupees. These are some important points that you need to remember. And now let us move on to next topic. Title says India's trade with China soared 62%. So this article mainly talking about trade between India and China. So this article will be important regarding international relations, which mainly comes under GS paper 2 and also GS paper 3 under economy, because it mainly talking about trade deficit. Okay. So if you're talking about some basics, so you need to know about trade. So what is this trade includes? This trade includes mainly imports and exports. Imports means whatever we are getting from other countries. Exports means we are sending our products to other countries. So what happened here? So why we need to go for imports and exports? Because every country which is not self-sufficient, in fact, no country which is self-sufficient in their demands and needs, right? So because of this, one country that need to be dependent on other country for satisfying their needs. For example, if you are talking about resources, in some areas we are having huge amount of resources and in some areas we are having deficit. So because of this, what happened, wherever the resources are very much high, they need to be transported to other countries. That will be helpful for overall development of world. So this is about some brief background. And now let us see context. If you see context, it mainly says that India's trade with China in first half of 2021, which mainly rose by around 62.7%. So India's trade with China has been increased in first half of 2021 by 62.7%, and it is the highest increase among China's major trade partners. So it is one of important boost also for Chinese trade partners, because India is a one important country which have highest increase among China's major trade partners. And if you're talking about further more details, it mainly says that two-way trade after 6 months was $57.48 billion, and it is highest on the record for first half. Okay, for the first half, this is highest record. And next one is the bilateral trade, which mainly surged from earlier period. So if you are comparing with that earlier year, now this year we saw there is an increase in trade between India and China. So as I said earlier, trade includes imports and exports. So now let us talk about imports of India and as well as exports of India. So India mainly importing medical supplies from China. So in 2020 to 2021, the import of this India's medical supplies, that mainly accounts to $42.76 billions. And in 2019, in the first half, we saw imports of India, it is about $35.8. So overall we can say it is 60.4% higher. And if you are focusing on India's exports, it mainly climbed to $14.72 billion. So overall this article says that there is a trade deficit of $28.04 billion. So here you need to understand about what is this trade surplus and what is this trade deficit. So as we know, whenever imports are more compared to that of exports, that means we are importing more from other countries and we are exporting less. So this condition is called as a trade deficit. And what is trade surplus? Trade surplus means imports are less compared to that of exports. That means we are mainly exporting large amount of products than compared to that of imports. So this condition is called a trade surplus. And with China, India is mainly having trade deficit. Means that is India is importing large amount of Chinese goods and exporting less amount of Indian products to China. So this is gist of this topic and I hope it is clear. Now let us try to talk about next topic. So if you see title, it mainly says that high fuel prices threatens recovery. So this article mainly talking about mainly economic recovery and what is the impact of high fuel prices on our recovery. So this topic is again important from economy point of view, which mainly comes under GS paper 3. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. So if you see context, it mainly says that India's economic recovery could be delayed by rising financial stresses on households plus inflation. So if we want to focus on economic recovery, so what is the important thing what we need to see? So we need to see whether households are facing financial stress or not, and what is the impact of inflation. So in yesterday's lecture, I detailedly explained about what is inflation, what is the impact of inflation on households, right? So one important thing I said that because of inflation, there is decreasing of savings in yesterday's lecture. So this article mainly talking about some details which showed that yes, inflation is having some impact on savings. Okay. So now let us try to see context. Context mainly says that India's economic recovery that could be delayed because of rising of this financial stress on households and as well as inflation. So because of this inflation, it is some adding additional woes to families. So this is according to State Bank of India Economics Research Team. So State Bank of India Economics Research Team mainly says that so economic recovery of country mainly dependent on financial stress on households and as well as inflation. So here in this context, so because of this financial stress here State Bank of India Economic Research Team mainly urging that fuel taxes to be cut to both cool inflammatory pressures and as well as to ease burden on consumers. So if you see consumers, whenever they are going to market, they will buy goods, right? Goods and services. So because of this increasing in transportation cost, overall cost of this goods and services is going to increase. So because of all these things, what happened? Why there is increase in cost of this fuel price? Because central government and as well as state government, they will levy taxes here. So because of this here, State Bank of India Economic Research Team mainly says that government need to decrease fuel taxes. So whenever this fuel taxes are decreasing here, so what happened? Transportation cost will be decreased. So because of this decrease in this transportation cost, then overall cost of this goods and services will be decreased. So because of this, we can also see there will be decrease in inflation in market, and will be also helpful for easing the burden on consumers. So why easing the burden? Because already people or consumers are facing many problems like no proper income. okay, no income property because of this lockdown so and so, and there is no job opportunities, and there is increase in unemployment, and as well as mainly there is decrease in demand. Okay, there is decrease in demand in market because there is no money in hands of people. Okay, there is no income security. So because of this, what happened, consumers are not going to market and to place demand for goods and services. Mainly to come out of this situation, here State Bank of India Economics Research Team mainly said that fuel taxes need to be cut down. Okay, so this is the thing. And now let us move on to important details. So if you see details, it mainly says that rising transportation cost would eventually push up food inflation. Right, yesterday I said that raw material is produced in one area and manufacturing is produced in one area, and we have wholesalers in one area, we have retailers in one area. So mainly to movement of this good from one area to another area, we need good transportation facility. So whenever there is the cost for diesel and as well as petrol which is increasing, and overall cost for transportation will be increased. So because of this, finally it will leads to inflation. So here rising of transportation cost, that would eventually leads to total push food inflation here. So in this context, researchers mainly says that higher petrol and as well as diesel prices and regional truck driver shortages, they are one of important driving up of road transportation costs. And next one is every 10% increase in petrol prices, it also leads to 0.5% in consumer price index. Okay, so there is a relationship between petrol prices or diesel prices with consumer price index also. So in this context, SBI economist, they mainly says that the household financial savings rate in third quarter of 2020 to 2021, which mainly come down to 8.2%. Earlier it was 21%. Okay, but 21% overall year, and for quarter it is 10.4%. And from 10.4% it decreased to 8.2%. So as I said, like inflation. So because of this inflation, for example, let me take yesterday's example itself. So if I go to supermarket to bring household items in my house, for example, let us take I took 10,000 rupees every month. So because of inflation, that is led to increase in the cost of vegetables and as well as increase in cost of pulses, oil, etc. Then what happened? So to get the same amount of goods in my basket, and now it is about 12,000 rupees. That means 2,000 rupees extra. For example, let us take my salary, it is 15,000 rupees per month. So if I getting 15,000 rupees month, I will spend 10,000 rupees on household items. But now I need to spend 12,000 rupees. So whenever I am spending 10,000 rupees for my households, so I will be saving 5,000 rupees, right, per month. But here I need to spend 12,000 rupees for this household items. Then I get only savings of about 3,000 rupees. So because of this inflation, which is also affecting my savings, right? So this is the thing which mainly said here, nothing more than that. So the household financial savings rate in third quarter of 2020 to 2021, which mainly come down to 8.2% of GDP from earlier 10.4% in previous quarters. So this is the thing which mainly analyzed in this topic. So now let us move on to next topic. Title says the unproductive idea. So this article mainly focusing on new population policy of Uttar Pradesh. So this article mainly talked about why it is in news, that is context, and also told about what are the important details of this policy, and finally it is posing some concerns, and finally it will be giving like what can be done, that is a need. So in this way you can approach this topic in a decent manner. So this article will be important from GS paper 2, which mainly comes under polity. So now let us try to talk about this topic in a very great detail. So if you see this article mainly talking about new population policy of UP. So we already discussed about this topic in our day before yesterday's lecture, I think so, right? So if you see context, it mainly says that UP CM announced incentives and as well as penalties from an integral, it mainly form an integral component of measures to control growth population. As we all know that in UP population is very high, and if you are comparing with a neighboring state, that is Bihar, total fertility rate is 3.1 percentage, and in UP it is 2.7 percentage. So because of this, UP government which is trying to control this population, and recently it announced this new population policy. So in this new population policy are mainly focusing on to provide incentives and as well as penalties. So incentives and penalties, they form an integral component of the measures to control population growth. So if you're talking about some important steps and what is the important aim of this step. So first one here is mainly to reduce UP's total fertility rate. So total fertility rate means in reproductive life cycle. So woman gives to how many children's birth, that is total fertility rate in simple layman term. Okay, so this total fertility rate made recorded as 2.7 by National Family Health Survey 4 in 2016. And if you're talking about provisions of that, so it mainly says that increase in rate of modern contraceptive prevalence. So it made it focusing on how to improve this modern contraceptive prevalence, and also it is focusing on male contraception and to decrease maternal mortality rate and also infant mortality rate by 2026. So it is coming up with different targets. In our day before yesterday's lecture we studied about that, and it is also in line with what is stressed at Cairo International Conference on Population and Development in 1994. So in 1994 Cairo International Conference on Population that came. Okay, so here UP's Chief Minister mainly says that, so this policy it is according to in lines of this Cairo International Conference on Population. So if you're talking about this Cairo consensus, what it talking about? It mainly called for promotion of reproductive rights of women and also to empower women and also universal education. It also focused on maternal and infant fertility or infant health, and next one is poverty and high fertility. So these are some important things which are mainly talked in this Cairo consensus. So what are the concerns regarding this bill? So rather than taking steps in this direction regarding empowering of women and as well as protecting rights of women and also taking care on property and as well as high fertility, so UP government mainly seems to have a beaten path of mixture of both incentives and as well as penalties, mainly to tackle this socio-economic issues. So if you're talking about this draft UP Population Control Stabilization and Welfare Bill 2021, it mainly aims to incentivize one-children families and also to reward with two children with perks and as well as taxes and also family planning, okay, loans. So whenever any couple who is having this one child, then those families will get rewards and incentives, and the parents and the family with two children, they will also get additional benefits like perks in government schemes and as well as rebates in taxes, loans and also cash awards if family planning is done in that family with the two children. And next one is government will also talk about to provide disincentives for those who are having more than two children. For example, those disincentives includes denial of subsidies and as well as denial of welfare benefits and bar on applying for government jobs and also to take part in local elections. So these are some disincentives will be provided. So this incentives and disincentive approach mainly denounced in past by National Human Rights Commission after such types of measures were already taken in some states, for example Haryana, undivided Andhra Pradesh, MP, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh and Odisha. And later on in 2003 Supreme Court upheld, yes, this Haryana government is correct, mainly to barring persons who are having more than two children in contesting these local bodies. And if you're talking about empirical studies which mainly said that, so discrimination against marginalized section of people will have no effect on population control. So these are some important things that you need to remember. And finally, this article talked about what is the need, what can be done. So here, whenever you want to control population, first thing here is we need to empower women. How can we empower women? So we need to provide education opportunities and we need to provide decision making power to her regarding her life or her job or her life of living standards, etc. And this one is whenever we are going for providing education for a girl, then automatically she will have ability to stand in a society alone and she can go for employment opportunities, right? So whenever girl who is having employment opportunities, they will have a decision making power, which is a good decision making power to go for early marriage or not, and also to go for having a baby or not here. So in this way, whenever we are providing education, this will be very much helpful for population control. That will comes under empowerment of women, and we can also make some economic reforms, and also we can go for raising of labor productivity, and we can increase employment opportunities for women, and we can also go for empowering of women and to reduce fertility rates. Okay, and next one is substantial poverty reduction schemes. They can be focused here. Okay, so because of poverty only, here we will go for early marriage of children, especially in rural areas. So whenever we are going for some poverty reduction schemes in government, then we can also address this challenge of population control. Okay, so if you are taking all these steps, and it mainly allows families to empower women, and also finally that will helpful for reducing of fertility rates. So this is a gist of this topic. And now let us move on to next topic. So before saying that, I want to make a small announcement on this platform. If you want to clear UPSC 2022, we came up with one excellent, highly beneficial and as well as highly economical course, that is current affairs package along with mains answer writing practice. So how this course will be useful? So one important thing you need to remember here is, before entering into examination hall, you need to know at least 1.5 years current affairs for sure. And this is right time to join this course to cover this 1.5 years current affairs in a comprehensive manner. And why you need to focus on this mains answer writing practice? Because many students, they ignore this mains answer writing practice. So for example, freshers or beginners, they might be thinking like after completing basic NCERTs, we are going to start that. Or after completing some standard books, we are going to start that. So as you all know that syllabus, it is very vast and you cannot complete that syllabus within the time frame. So because of this, your mains answer writing practice will be ignored. So even though if you are doing hard work and if you clear prelims, you cannot clear mains without proper answer writing skills. So in this course, we are mainly focusing on how to improve your answer writing skills. And the next important thing here is, if you join this course, we also conduct prelims test on every Sunday, and we also provide you video explanation part. So in this way, this course which is designed as per demand of UPSC. So finally, I want to say one thing, please don't take this course as a choice. Try to join this course as soon as possible and achieve your dream of clearing UPSC. And apart from this, we also launched Indian Geography course. So if you are lagging in Indian Geography, you can also take this course. So details of this courses are given in the description box. So please visit that once. And if you want to talk to me directly, you can call to this number 8074765513. Okay. And now let's come back and let us say next topic. Title says growth matters, but income levels matter more. So this article mainly talking about growth matter. So if you're talking about economy, so when we want to see growth in our economy, we need to think about two important concepts. So first one is supply and second one is demand. So whenever there is an equilibrium between the supply and demand in market, then only we can see proper economic growth will be there. For example, in supply side, whenever there is increase in supply, and demand side, whenever there is decrease in demand, so what will happen? So if there is any company which is going for production of this goods, what happen? It is producing in excess amount, but there is no demand. That will leads to incur losses to this company, right? And second scenario here is, whenever there is decrease in supply in market, but demand is very much high, then what happen? Here, whatever the demand, it is not met by so and so company. That means we can say it is a failure of this company. So it will be also leading to losses, right? So because of all these things, so we need to focus and we need to understand that there is a need of equilibrium between this supply and demand in market. So this is some background, and overall this article will be important regarding GS paper 3 under economy. So now let us try to talk about this topic in a very great detail. So if you see context, it mainly says that the provisional estimates of annual national income released. So this report mainly says that nothing which is encouraging numbers, because we are in a lockdown position and we are in an economic crisis. So if you're talking about this report, which mainly says about two important sectors, first one is agriculture sector. So as you all know that agriculture sector, which is mainly showing some impressive growth performance, and it is one of important vital sector of our economy. So because from imposition of lockdown from March 2020 onwards, the only sector which is showing some growth here is agriculture. And if you move into manufacturing sector, which mainly continued as a subdued growth development or growth performance. So in growth performance here, manufacturing sector is just very low. And if you see here, so this manufacturing sector mainly failing to emerge as a growth driver with production interruptions because of this lockdown phases. For example, if you're talking about different fields, like there is in contraction in trade, there is contraction in construction, contraction mining, manufacturing. So here matter of concern here is in all these sectors, the bulk of low skilled jobs. Okay, so mainly migrant workers, they will be working in this contraction and as well as construction and also like manufacturing sector, etc. So if you're talking about GDP, so GDP at constant price. So whenever you're talking about GDP, so we can see like two times, like GDP at current price and GDP at constant price. So difference here is we are going to adjust inflation. So let me know in comment box, so which is the current prices, GDP at current price and GDP at constant prices. So in which either in GDP at current price or constant price, so we are mainly including this inflation. Okay, we are mainly adjusting inflation. So GDP at constant price, which mainly says that growth of 1.6%, which is slightly better than expected earlier. So if you're talking about current growth rate, so mainly to understand this current growth rate, you need to focus on some important concepts. So first one is unemployment data. So recently this unemployment data released by Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, May 2021, it mainly said that India's labor participation rate, it is at 40%, and which has saved at it was April 2021. So in April 2021, and we are comparing with May 2021, India's labor's participation rate, it is 40% almost. And if you are talking about unemployment rate, which mainly increased from 8% in April to 11.9% in May. And even employment rate mainly fell to 35.3% in May when we are comparing with that of this 36.8% in April. And if you are talking about jobless people, according to CMI, so there are about 15 million jobs that were lost in May 2021. And here this joblessness will also brings out high informality and as well as vulnerability of laborers in India. And also we can see there is decrease in demand. So whenever we are having money in hands only, we will go to market and place some orders. So if there is no money, no employment, no job, no livelihood, means how can I go outside to make demands for goods and services? No, right? And next one is Business Confidence Index, which mainly released by FICCI, which mainly says that 15.5 from 74.2 decrease. That means we can see there is a weak demand in our economy. And if you're talking about this Purchasing Managers Index, so it also slipped to 10 months low, which also indicating manufacturing sector has showing signs of a mainly strain with growth predictions. And next one is demand recovery. So demand recovery, it is very important for our growth recovery. So demand recovery mainly includes external demand that is mainly looking some robust, and India's exports also reached $32 billion in May 2021. And it is a 67% when we are comparing with that of high in May 2020 and 8% more than in May 2019. So if you're talking about what are the steps to taken by government mainly focused on fiscal stimulus package, all you know, right? So it is mainly focusing on credit easing for these companies, MSMEs, etc. And also focusing on supply side measures mainly to increase, mainly to increase supply. And next one is government also most probably guaranteeing about improve flow of credit in important sectors also. And even if you're talking about concerns, it mainly says that so the government mainly addressing only supply side measures, not demand side. So because of this, here we are not going to expect this economic revival now only. And next one is stimulus package announced for it will be helpful for only medium term but not in short term and as well as long term, because here this stimulus package mainly announced by government, so it includes mainly policies which are related to external sector, infrastructure and as well as manufacturing sector. And next one is credit backstops. So this credit backstops mainly limits compared to any direct measure on the demand side. Further, it mainly leads to result in poor economic growth performance. And if you're talking about need, what can be done? So first one here is we need to focus on mainly demand side also, and we need to provide some short-term magnified growth rates mainly to address this situation. So this is a gist of this topic. I hope it is clear. So by this we are concluding today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. And don't forget to enroll to this current affairs package and Indian geography. Thank you so much.